I'm Travis Weaver, and you're listening to the Good People Project.
Okay, let's do it. Negative stories get headlines, but there are a ton of good and decent people stepping up to serve in Illinois. The Good People Project tells the unsung story of those who wake up every day to do good and selfless work for the American people. Please share this episode to help spread our positive message. Today's guest is one of my very favorite people in the world, and I'm not just saying that because she's bought me Christmas presents for the last 32 years. She has a servant's heart, the highest integrity, and just a wonderful attitude and outlook on life. She places God above all else and her family right behind him. Oh yeah, and she founded an organization that gathers hundreds of women who give hundreds of thousands in charitable contributions each year. She's pretty special. So, without any further ado, the wise and talented Laurie Weaver. Mom, how's life?
Doing good.
Well, this is a little bit of a birthday special because the day after it airs will be your 39th birthday. And some might be wondering, how is that possible that I'm 32 and my siblings are 38 and 35 and you're 39? Well, the reality is that every year since you've been 39, every new birthday has been your 39th birthday. It's even proven by your email address, ljweave39. Whose idea was that?
Well, first of all, that's my old email address, so don't try me at that. But let's see, when I first came up with my very first email address, I was...
Which is like back when I used to have a typewriter.
Well, I must have been 39.
Yeah.
And I think this was my first one. And I asked Dad, what do you think? Can I be LJ Weave 39? And because I'm not 39 for much longer.
Yeah.
And he said... honey, you can be 39 for as long as you want.
Yeah,
so.
Which is a lot smarter than putting the year that you were born, because then everybody knows. Like,
right.
Mine is TR Weaver 92. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that, I'll be talking with this, my email address is like, wow, you must be so young. Please don't tell me that was the year you were born. And it's like, well,
and now everybody just thinks I'm 39.
Yeah. And it has to be interesting. I won't, you never say a lady's age, but it has to be interesting to look back at 39 because, like I said in the intro, my oldest brother, Jesse, turns 38 this fall. Annie, my sister, is 35. So it has to just 37. She's 37.
Jesse turns
37. Annie is 35. And that's about how old you were when you did that. So it just has to be interesting to see your kids reach milestones.
Yeah, the fact that Jesse's approaching 40 is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that should be me.
Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have to yourself at 35 or 37 or 39?
I don't know if I really have any advice to myself, except for, I guess, right now.
Mom, this is your opportunity to give solicited advice to your children.
Okay. Well, my first thought is when I think about my dad,
Mm-hmm.
because my dad is 97. And when I look at people, think of people that I look up to, a lot of them have passed. But when I think about my dad, my advice to myself is move it or lose it. Because he has always been active. He didn't start becoming active when he was old. He has always moved it. And as a result, at 97, my sister and I walk him almost every morning, walk with him, and we pay somebody to go walk with him in the afternoons, and he gets on the bike down to physical therapy 5 times a week, and he goes to physical therapy for exercise 3 times a week. So he just, A, he enjoys it, but B, I think his longevity is, that he would say that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if you were going to say something about like, it gets better, it keeps getting better. I think it's such a common thing to say, oh, what I would give to be 30, what I would give to be 20. And I feel like for you, you're the kind of person I think that would say that every year is better than the last. Every year has kind of brought some new challenges, growth for sure. Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who has this mindset of, gosh, I wish I was younger? I mean, because for you, I feel like,
Yeah, no, I don't really wish I was younger. I do think people make a big deal of your 50s, and I thought my 50s were great. You still feel really good. You have lots of energy. Your family's often still in the house. Just it's just really fun time of life. But now I'm in my 60s, and there's great advantages to that. And I still feel good, and I still feel healthy. And yeah, so I don't really want to go back. I think it's pretty fun to be old enough to have perspective.
There's an author, his name is James Quick, who says that if you have good habits, time is your ally. If you have bad habits, time is your enemy. And I think that that's just so true in so many ways. If you have bad habits, if you're unhealthy, or if you're, living your life the way that you shouldn't, eventually things are going to catch up to you. But if you have good habits, which means that you're investing in yourself and investing in relationships and investing in growth, then the future should always be brighter, because you have time to reap the rewards of those investments that you made, whether it be hard work or whatever.
Yeah, and you sleep good at night because you are tired and you feel like you've accomplished something in your day, and you look forward to waking up the next morning because you're like, oh gosh, I get to do this today. And let's get going. Yeah, it's beautiful. Sun's out. Let's, go for a bike ride. Yeah.
So your faith has always been important to you. I think for your whole life, your parents were strong in their faith. And my dad, your husband, is as well. But really for you especially, it just seems like you've led youth groups. I would come down in the mornings and see you reading your Bible and devotions. Is there a point in your life where you felt like things kind of changed, where your faith became your own, you weren't a kid anymore, and now that you were going to decide to be an adult who wanted to really dig in and make that a cornerstone of their future?
Yeah, I think of 2 times. So first of all, when I was in 7th grade, I went to East Bay Bible Camp with my best friend and neighbor, Barbie Keister, and that was in Bloomington. And there were some guys from the Teen Challenge in Champaign, and they were the camp counselors, and they were, excited about their faith and just really fun and cool, and I thought they were cool. And I can remember thinking, I want what they have. I want to be like them when I'm in my 20s.
Was it the Teen Challenge as we know it today for rehabilitation? Wow. And so were they sharing stories about their journey and where it went wrong and their
not
return
so much
to God?
about their addiction issues as much as their faith. But they had been through the program. They were working with Teen Challenge, but some of them I think had been through the program, but they were working with youth at a Bible camp. So anyway, I don't know if it was a part of their treatment. I don't know. I didn't even really realize what Teen Challenge was till I got home, and my mom bought me the David Wilkerson book, Crossing the Switchblade, and then another one by Nikki Cruz called Run Baby Run, that were all about, they're the founders of Teen Challenge and how they started.
Oh, I didn't know that they started, because you bought me that book when I was in middle school. And it's fantastic if you haven't read it, to the listeners. Run Baby Run. It's about a guy who's kind of in a gang in Chicago and really up to some bad things. And just totally had a life-changing experience.
David Wilkerson, who started Teen Challenge and turned his life around. And so I'd say in 7th grade is when I really remember praying a prayer that God would become real to me and not just be my parents' faith. And so that was pivotal. And then somewhere around 2003, we had some family issues. Dad made some job changes. We had some challenges in our relationship. And that's when I also realized that, there is nothing in this world that is forever. My mom has passed on. One of my brothers has passed on. My dad, I said, is 97. He will pass, but, I assume before me. My husband will pass on. This house will crumble someday. Nothing lasts forever except for Jesus, except for my faith. And it's the only thing that nobody can ever take away from me. And so I guess during that spell in 2003 when we were struggling and just going through some changes, and it just hit me that all of this is temporary, and God and my faith are the only things that are forever.
Zig Ziglar says that when your outlook becomes challenged, your uplook becomes clear. And I think that that's so true, that there's sometimes you really have to go through some storms to get real clarity about where you are with your Creator and where do you stand on this earth.
What's important.
There's times that I just pray, let me get clarity without the tragedy,
the hurricane.
But there is something about it that I think also just finding the silver lining of things, and obviously when something bad happens, it can be really hard to see the silver lining. But if you take it as an opportunity to hit the reset button, get on your knees, and just be thankful or find peace, those are really great opportunities. And I think in hindsight they can be. And but when you're in the moment of it, you're like, where are you? Why are you doing this to me? But that's why.
Which I do have to add that Dad and I say all the time, we thank God for 2003. He left the family business. He and I are closer now than we probably would have ever been without having gone through that period. It changed everything. It changed how we parent. You guys were in middle school and high school, pretty much those ages, and I just think it changed the way we communicated with you and our level of honesty with you, and I just think it changed everything.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse to share with the listeners?
I do. I think my favorite Bible verse, and it's funny because when you asked me that, I thought Annie made me a little picture of it when she was maybe 14 or something, and it's still in the laundry room above the washing machine. And so I come across it a lot, but it's 2 Timothy 1:7. And it says, "For God has not given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power and love and self-discipline." And there's just so many areas of my life that I just need to remember that. Just gives you the confidence that God didn't give me a spirit of fear and timidity where I cower in the midst of, what the latest trend and what's going on in the world and cancer and, fears. He that's not from God. He gave me not only a spirit of love, but a spirit of power and self-discipline, which, just is empowering.
It is an interesting verse because I think to most people, if they didn't know it, who are strong in their faith, you would say, what did God give you the spirit of? And they would probably say peace and kindness and love and family and all these great things, but that's not what it says. It says power. That's interesting. Love, that's not surprising. And self-discipline. Which is the nice thing about self-discipline is it is a key that unlocks everything else. Because if you have self-discipline, you can get all the other traits. If you just have patience and self-discipline, you can get there. And so, it's almost like, power is the motor that helps you get to things. Love is the support network that helps you get to where you want to be. And self-discipline is the personal wherewithal that unlocks all these doors. And so I just think that those three talents sort of supersede everything else because with them, you can achieve anything.
Which is what he's saying. Because you have the power of self-discipline within you, you can do whatever you need to do. You can accomplish what you need to accomplish. He has, if you want to, and with his help, and sometimes some of the things that we set out to do, maybe they aren't necessarily his will, but if it's a matter of achieving a goal, I just think it gives you the confidence to go for it.
I thought you were going to say Psalm 139, which says, "For you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and willfully made." So what year was it when you had your gallbladder issue?
Well, that's not when...
Or what was it? Was it a kidney? What, in your stomach?
I had my gallbladder. That was when I had my stomach issue. And so... But
what was growing in your stomach?
I had a pancreatic
cell. Okay.
A pancreatic cell that was growing.
So you had two pancreases. You had your actual pancreas, and then you had a cell in your stomach that was growing. So you kind of had this like tumor, this pancreatic tumor in your stomach. And I just remember you clinging to this verse so closely because, God knew that when he knit you together some 60 plus years ago, that there was going to be this cell there, and in the future, then it was going to have to be something that was dealt with. But just the knowing that I was made this way, there are surprises to us, but there's never surprises to him.
That turned out to be an ordeal. And then I later went back to college to study oncology massage after a scare with cancer, and my professor wrote that verse up on the board. And at the time, it was like the first night of school, and I thought, is this the best use of my time? I'm old. Does my brain still work? And I just ask I remember driving to ICC North and just asking God for a sign. You know, just write it in the clouds or something. Is this a waste of my time? Is this what I should be doing? And I got there, and the professor taught anatomy, and she wrote that verse up on the board, which was, you know, at a secular school, which was odd, but you know, she was teaching anatomy and physiology. So anyway, I thought, oh, okay, that's my sign.
But I thought also you were on this journey to get into oncology massage because your brother passed away from cancer, I think was kind of what lit the fire. And then as you were going through it, or maybe as you were almost done, then you got breast cancer.
Yeah,
and it was like God's way of saying,
after I'd finished.
Your training
Yes.
isn't yet complete. And then you went through that. And then I think just helped you to connect with your patients on another level because you could empathize with them and vice versa.
Help them through.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit. It has to be so interesting for you being so near politics, because I wouldn't say that if you weren't my mom and dad's wife, that you would necessarily be a political person. I mean, I think that you're engaged in what's happening in the news, you're incredibly giving and charismatic, but you're not just inherently the type of person that's going to want to be in this thick of politics. And so Dad got into the city council in 2011, probably around that. It was right after I went to college. And just since then, I'm curious, are there some things that you've learned or you have a different perspective of sort of having this front row seat into how the sausage gets made, for a better lack of a better term?
Yeah. So I'm interested in politics because I'm interested in my community and my country. But you're right, I'm not on the front lines. I'm not knocking on doors, and it's not my thing to be the voice. But I guess the main thing that I would say is that when people call our city council and our community leaders and our state leaders public servants, I had no idea what that really meant until Dad became one. And I just think people have no idea how much sleep he would lose, how many hours he would pour over researching things, how much he wanted to be part of the solution. And I just, for, almost no pay. And, and then when he moved into the Senate, people act like he was making the big bucks. And I just thought, you have no idea if it came out to an hourly wage, how little it would be for the amount of work that he put into it and that you put into it. And it really is a public service. You have to really believe that you can make a difference and be willing to have people say rude things about you. And it just takes, it's a lot of hard work.
I totally agree, especially for things like city council, but even more so like the school board, or if you're on a small village board, those people are serving because they live in a community and they want to have, water, so much of their expenses are for water treatment or well water. I mean, it's not our R&D issues. It's really issues of like just running a small municipal government. And with the school board, you don't get into that because you have political aspirations. You get into it because you want your kids to have a better
future
outlook on life. And it's just so hairy because it's so personable. I mean, you're talking about somebody's kids, and they don't get paid anything at all in those roles. And so it truly is somebody stepping up to say, I want to serve. And by the way, a lot of these small town village boards, nobody even wants to do it in the first place. So it's not like you're running. It's more like you're saying, okay, I'll be the person that volunteers this time. School board, there are some more running where you do have to win to get on a lot. But it's really a thankless job. Not only is it a thankless job, it's the opposite. It's a job where you're going to get probably lambasted publicly by somebody. You go out to dinner and they say, oh, there's that jerk that thinks differently about me than the school.
There's a lot of armchair quarterbacks, a lot of backseat drivers that think that they, that have an opinion on it, and they should have an opinion on it. It's good to talk to a wide variety of people, but at some point you have to cast your vote, and there's going to be people on both sides that don't take the time to sit down and talk to you and find out why. And now with social media, they can, also air that, which is, not fun.
Yeah. Something else about you. I don't know that people really know about the careers that you've had in life. So just throughout my life, you've owned Leo's Flower Shop, which is on Knoxville. You sold that I guess when I was maybe 10 or 11, so would that have been early 2000s?
Because we bought it when you were 3, so 95, and then we ran it for about 5 years, and then we owned it for 5 more years, but one of our designers was buying us out throughout those next 5 years.
So the real longtime Peorians will remember Leo's Flowers. They'll remember the giant neon rose right on Knoxville, down, is it Knoxville? What's
Knoxville
the corner?
and
McClure? Okay, so you did that. You managed commercial real estate properties. You went back to school because you had a passion for oncology. You got an oncology massage. Of course, you've always had a role in the various businesses that Dad's been a part of. And I just think all that is so cool because you've quietly had this growing, improving, successful professional career. But the whole time, if anybody ever asked you what you did, you would have just said that you were a mom. And I just think it's interesting because a lot of people, I think, take so much pride in their professional work that they not only would talk about that first, but they would probably even enhance what they said that they did. You know, they would embellish certain points. And for you, it was the opposite, just that your pride was just so clearly so much more in your family, and that the things that you did on the side, oncology may be a little bit different because that was a passion of yours, and of course having Leo's with your sister was, I think, a really great memory for you to have. But it's not where your pride of your career was.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at those experiences, and you forgot that we also owned the Dixie Cafe. That was a kind of a challenge.
How could I forget? Was I alive?
No, well, we bought it the year Annie was born, so you weren't alive. And I think we owned that for 5 years. So you would have been born. I would have been born. Yeah, but that was which was on
War Memorial, where the Circle K is, right by Lariat Steakhouse. That has changed so much right there.
Yeah, that building's long gone, and then that grew into commercial real estate. I've learned a lot from all those different aspects, but those are things that I did to contribute financially to the family, and I learned, and I saw the good in them. But you know, there's nothing as much fun as being at home with your kids, and
So flash forward, you're obviously still a mom, but just in a different mom capacity than when we were children. But so now you're the founder and president of Impact Central Illinois. You started this group that's giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for the last several years. But even to this day, if somebody asks you what you did, I can so probably say that you're a grandma, despite the fact that perhaps the most successful thing you've done, at least in, perhaps impact or, financial impact. And you would still say, oh, I'm grandma. That'd be the first thing you talk about because you got those 6 awesome grandkiddos.
Yeah, I have 6 amazing grandkids.
2 on the way.
And 4 of them are right down the street, so I get to be with them a lot. And so they direct a lot of what I do, which is so fun. And it's really fun it's really a blessing to be a blessing to Annie and give her some time to breathe by taking the kids a couple days a week and allowing her to homeschool the older ones. And that's been great. And Jesse and Alex, they're amazing. And I get to go see them in a couple weeks and welcome baby number 3.
So let's talk about Impact Central Illinois a little bit. So for the listeners who aren't familiar, we've kind of teased it a little bit, but would you kind of just give us a 90-second summary of what exactly Impact Central Illinois is and what it does?
Yep. It's a collective giving organization for women in Central Illinois. So we are a 501c3, but it feels odd to call us a not-for-profit, even though when people give us money, it is a 501c3, so it's tax deductible. But really, we are a collective giving organization for women. So my sister-in-law, Shelley, and I set out 6 years ago. We decided to start Impact Central Illinois. We were mentored by our friend Reb Powers in Austin, Texas, who had started Impact Austin. And we set out to find 100 women that would each contribute $1,000 each so that we could give away a $100,000 grant to a worthy not-for-profit in the Tri-County area. And so we set out to do that. In 2018, we started working towards it. We invited Reb to come sit around this table and share a little bit about Austin with some local women. And from that dinner time conversation, we began to form our founding board. That was in 2018. In 2019, we were ready to start recruiting members and fine-tune our guidelines of what we would be what we would ask for specifically from not-for-profits in our application process. And then in 2020, with 130 members, our first year, we were able to award, and in the midst of COVID, we were able to award a $130,000 grant to Children's Home of Illinois to refurbish their youth farm cottages. So that was year one. And now we've gone through 5 giving cycles, and all total we've given away 15 grants and $1,263,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's such a great idea for an organization, because just the value of coordinated collective giving, where if you have 100 people and each of them generously give $1,000 to various charities, if they give them to 20 different organizations, does a $5,000, each check really change the capacity of what the organization can do? It's operating funds. They need it for sure. People should give money in that regard, but it's not necessarily missed if they don't have it. Whereas by taking it collectively, you can really do something that is transformational. So you mentioned Youth Farm changing their cottages, refurbishing their cottages.
Yeah.
And so to be able to tell the story of 15 grants like that, now some of them are smaller because you have more than $100,000 at the end of a year sometimes, so you need to chop it up a little bit. But what, a dozen of them would be $100,000, or 10 of them maybe are $100,000?
So we have given away 11 what we call impact grants that are $100,000 or more, and then we've given away 4 of what we call Inspire grants to smaller not-for-profits that are $20,000 to $25,000. And you're right, it fluctuates every year, because if we have 300 members, we can only give away those 3 big grants. If we have 340 members, we can give away a little more than $100,000 and a smaller grant. So it just kind of fluctuates based on our membership. But you're also right in that I can give $1,000 to an organization, and you can give a check for $1,500, and somebody down the road will give them $500. But if we pool our money together, we can make transformational impact happen. And I personally don't write checks for $100,000, but my check with your check, and last year we had 340 members, so you take all of those checks together and you can make a dent in some projects.
Yeah, and it just makes me so proud to see where you are now, giving over $1 million away over the last 5 or 6 years, because there's a conversation that I remember having around our dinner table right after you had this idea, you had met Reb, you were kicking around the idea, you decided, yep, we're going to go ahead and do it. And I think you had maybe gotten to like 12 women, and it kind of felt like you'd reached out to your network and Aunt Shelley had reached out to hers. And you might think in your head, oh, I know 100 people, but then once you actually start counting, it just comes up to less of a number. And I don't want to sell you short like you were being defeatist, but it was just kind of this moment of like, oh my gosh, we've been working and asking everybody, and we're at 12 and we got to get to 100. We're still 88 short. Is this a bad idea? Should we just close up shop and say we tried? And obviously you didn't, but we're family, so you can kind of share your grievances, and you trudged on. And then now to just think of some people that would have taken an opportunity to exit and never known what they were made of, versus you that said, nope, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to ask help for where I need it. We're going to get a team together. And in that first year, 130, you were nervous about getting to 100. You beat your goal by 30%. Just really pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and it says a lot about our community. We beat Impact Austin their first year. And, we're Peoria, Illinois. And this was right after CAT had moved their headquarters to Deerfield. So
people were nervous.
Yeah, people were nervous, and we were very aware of the need in the community from the not-for-profits. So it's been...
And how does the annual cycle work? So there's a part of the year where you recruit, and then you know how much members you have. So maybe you take 6 months recruiting. You say, okay, we've got 200 members. That means we're going to have 200,000. There's a little bit more than that because there's some matching. So maybe 300,000. And then you kind of snap the chalk line. And then you say, okay, now nonprofits, come pitch to us of what you want. So how does the year work, and where are you currently in the cycle?
Okay, so right now we're in our member recruiting cycle. So our annual meeting is in June every year, the first Tuesday in June. That's when we award the grants. The night we award the grants, immediately we start recruiting for the next. So in So June of 2024, we started recruiting that night from June of 2024 till November 15th. This coming November 15th is our cutoff. This is a time where we're out looking for members. We have gatherings in people's homes. Current members try to get their friends to come be a part of it. And then we cut it off on November 15th. We meet with not-for-profits. We will announce in December how much money we have to give away. And then starting in January, we start the process where they can apply. And then all next winter, well, January through May, we have, the not-for-profits are working on submitting applications. Our grant review committees meet and review all those applications. And then by May, they've narrowed it down to 2 organizations in each of our 3 categories that we look at, which I should say, I guess, we look at, we take applications in the focus area of education, health and well-being, and family and social service. So those 3 categories can apply. Then in June, we hear presentations from the 2 finalists in each of those categories and from a smaller not-for-profit if we're going to give a grant in that area. And that night we vote. And then as soon as we cast our vote, then we start over again.
Yeah, and so smart to recruit that night because you just gave away a bunch of money. Everybody's excited. What a better time to say, let's do it again, everybody, as opposed to go away and then we'll try to circle up again later. And
so that's what we do. That's the night where we say, can we count you in for next year? And an impressive percentage of our members re-up on annual every year. But it's not a lifetime commitment. And some people move away and some people, have, financial things that come up and other priorities, and so they step out and come back. And
one thing that I love about looking at the women when you're gathered is there's just so much economic diversity amongst the women members. There's some women where you see them and you can tell that it means something to them. This is probably the most money that they're going to give away all year. It might even be all the money that they're going to give away all year, but they're proud to be able to participate in it. And then you see other women who might give $1,000 checks pretty frequently, but what it's about is coming together and doing something special. And so, if you feel like, oh gosh, $1,000, that's a big number. Well, it is a big number, but there's a lot of women that are in your group that say it is a big number and I'm going to commit to it. And if that means I got to skip a dinner, a night out here and there, if I had to sacrifice, I'll do it because I want to be part of something bigger.
Yeah, yep. And we always say, it takes all kinds of members. Some, like you said, some women can write a check easily and they spend most of the winter in Florida. And so they say, here's my check. You're never going to see me again. And we need their check. So we welcome those members. And there's other members that say, I want to learn about this process and I want to see what's going on in my community. And we welcome them too. They push up their sleeves and contribute. And one thing that's pretty cool is we now have junior members, an opportunity for young girls 14 to 22 for $500. They can be a junior member and have all the rights of a regular member. And our most recent junior member is my niece Avery Strubar, who's
16.
She's 16, and her mom is now a member, and my sister. Avery's grandma is now a member. So, those 3 women will be able to sit on a grant review committee together and talk about what's going on in these not-for-profits and, how are they going to make this work? And isn't there another organization on the other side of town doing the same thing? And just have these meaningful conversations that just make their relationships rich.
Yeah, it does seem like so much of it is family oriented, where you see a lot of moms and daughters, a lot of sisters, a lot of aunts and nieces, that it's just cool that there are families a part of it that I think makes the group seem like such a family together.
Yeah. In fact, your fiance Mackenzie just became a member, and her aunt.
Good. I really had to twist her arm to get her in there.
Right. Yeah. And her aunt,
just kidding,
Denise, is a grant review committee chair this year. So it's awesome. I look forward to sharing it with Mackenzie, but I know Denise does also. So that's cool. Yeah.
So how can any women listening find out more if they wanted to join? They've got a couple months, so we kind of got to start thinking about it and get on it. But if they want to learn more, come to a meeting, how could they do that?
Yeah. Okay. So to be a member, there's just 2 requirements. Excuse me. You have to be a woman, and you have to pay $1,100 $1,100 every giving year. So I wanted to clarify that. 1,000 of it goes directly to the not-for-profit, and 100 goes towards running our organization. We are 100% volunteer run, so we don't have an office, we don't have an executive director, we are all volunteers. So
And the running of the organization is really recruitment, right? Because you have events and you got to buy some things for,
yeah, education. And so we have to rent venues, and we like to offer our women, when they come to an event, a glass of wine and some food. And so we're pretty frugal. We run a pretty tight ship. We're looking at also having to do an audit coming up, and those are expensive. So anyway, there's just costs. Shelley said to me the other day, she said, who knew it costs so much to give away money? So anyway, it does. So, but if anybody listening to this wanted to become a member, they could definitely they could call me at 309-645-5893.
Oh, Mom, wow.
Yeah. Or they can go to our website, impactcentralillinois.org. And it's pretty easy to, we've done a great, Beth Clark has done a really good job with our website. Pretty easy to navigate, see some of the organizations that we have supported, and there's a link that you can click on to become a member.
Are there any, so this will air on Monday, are there any events coming up around the corner that anybody could be aware of?
Yeah. Well, there's one last, we call it Bring a Friend Gathering on October 7th at La Fleur Florist in Washington, Illinois. And then we have a luncheon scheduled at the museum on November 4th.
Good.
Which, if somebody wanted to get in touch with me, they'd be more than welcome to come as my guest to that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, Mom, I love you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
it's been a
thanks
pleasure,
for having me.
and love what you're doing, and hopefully have another successful impact year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
I'm Travis Weaver, and you're listening to the Good People Project.